Welcome, and today I have the distinct pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Marsha Tongel and talking about her concept of gift education. Welcome, Marsha.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for having me here today. My teaching experience is what really led me to begin to think of gift education, because a lot of the youth, especially the undergraduates I was teaching at that particular time, I found that they were stifled, that they didn't know how to think, they didn't know how to problem solve, they didn't know how to be creative because they weren't allowed to do that. They were to follow a particular script, especially if you think about going through high school and then getting them as an undergraduate. And they actually kind of froze when I gave them different things to begin to think about on a deeper level. Then I began to think of them, but as well as my grandchildren growing up, that you can't have a different world if we don't look at the systems and institutions that we have now being different, because we're just going to keep creating the same type of thing. Gift education, though, really came at my heart in terms of looking at education, the educational system from the backwards, from the outside in rather from the inside out. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to get into a little bit of the history now. Okay. Education, Judy, has primarily had a purpose of preparing somebody for an outward purpose. This could be a spiritual purpose. It could be for military. Now it's for the economy. So basically what we have is an educational system and institution preparing people to engage in a capitalistic economic system. Okay. However, is that really the purpose of why youth come into this world? I don't think so. I think every youth, every child comes into this world with a gift, and that the purpose of education should be to unwrap the gift, not force the child into a certain stream. And so I began to think about gift education in terms of an alternative way to begin to look at youth and to be able to look at education. It means desystemizing, institutionalizing in many ways, but in other ways, it means really enriching the educational process.
Oh, I love that enrichment aspect. And you also talk about education shifting if we change the questions we ask. And so I always love that, going deep into inquiry. If you could talk a little bit about how to shift education by changing the questions we ask.
Think of the question we typically ask you. What do you want to, and children, what do you want to be when you grow up? What should you be when you grow up? We don't ask them, what is your passion? What do you feel that you're good at? What really makes your heart throb? We don't ask them that. So right away, even when children are young, we begin to form them into this system. So the question youth in terms of, rather than how do you feel you can contribute to the world? How about what is the gift that you can give to the world that you feel would create a change and make the world better? So it's just shifting the questions a little bit, but again, putting the emphasis back on the child and the youth in terms of their importance and their gift. Thinking today, this is interesting, and it's kind of a sideline, but it's related. Because when we talk about education, we talk about curriculum, and I started thinking today, look at what gets funded in schools. Okay, I mean, look at extracurricular activities. It's sports, it's competitive events, it's anything that fits back into the capitalist system. What is the first thing that gets cut? Music, art, the things that help youth to maybe grow in a different way, because we can't create a new world unless we allow our youth to begin to evolve with their gifts and their vision of how a new world can be.
And that dovetails nicely into your, I think, a fantastic quote: education for economy to education for humanity. I mean, that's a really interesting concept. And I'm wondering how that particular quote of yours would figure into curriculum development and also teacher training.
I think when you look at for humanity, first let's step back and say that the whole education system would need to change. Okay. So if you think of now, a child gets up, walks in, goes into a school, goes into a classroom and sits at a desk. We silo all our youth. So the first thing we got to think about for humanity is we got to begin to remove the barriers. Okay. We live in a very global, diverse world. We need to break down the walls. And the only way to do that is to literally break down the walls. So we have cross education and cross learning between the youth, between the teachers. And of course, I think part of this is right now, youth get on a bus, go to school, come home. Okay. Education is an integrated system. Youth live in a community, they live in a family. So the whole educational process has to be expanded to bring the community in, to bring the parents in, etc. All of it, so that what we're all doing is helping that youth to unwrap their gift.
And that's collaborative, youth-centric learning at its best. And
Right.
another great concept that I've learned from Marsha, and she's so creative with turning a word. And if you could share your screen, Marsha, now let's talk a little bit about your 5 I's. Really, really interesting when it comes to education and new models.
Okay. If we consider each of these 5 I's that maybe help youth to be able to develop their talents or skills. First, the first I is intention. Okay. We need to work with youth to let them define their own purpose, not define it for them. Okay. Not say, hey, when you grow up, you've got to do this, you got to do that, you've got to accomplish this. It's like, what are you comfortable doing? What do you feel skilled at doing? What do you feel passionate about? What is your intention? The second one is innocence. Innocence is what in nature allows for what they call self-education, because it's like exploratory. Okay. So you're always innocently looking at the world and you're innocently looking at potentials. And what this does is this begins to open up that whole panorama in terms of what is possible. So innocence, not feeling, oh, you have to be at a certain stage. Okay. No, maybe you don't have to be at a certain stage. Maybe you need to fall back a little bit. Think of spirals. Okay. And learning, relearning, and coming back. That's all part of innocence and self-learning. Imagination. Well, I don't even think I have to explain this, except, I say here, remove the lines in the coloring book. I'm going to say, throw out the coloring book. Get rid of the coloring book. What is possible? Allow our youth to define what is possible. Inquiry. Okay. You need to ask questions and you need to go out into the world and to be able to investigate. Okay. So, if you have an interest in a certain area, it's not a question of just picking up a book. Maybe you need to go out in the community and talk to somebody who actually does it. Learn. Okay. Ask questions, then take it a step further. That's how our society grows. That's how we evolve. And then innovation, of course, is just always considering that there's new ways to do things, new ways to come together, new ways to think, new ways to problem solve.
So beautiful.
That's my 5 I's.
The 5 I's. I love it. But first, let's talk about outcomes, possible outcomes for gift education. I love to speak about outcomes.
The most immediate outcome is we have healthy, fulfilled, whole youth. Now, of all the problems that youth have in terms of drugs and everything else, and bullying and peer pressure, part of that is because they can't be comfortable in their self, because we don't allow them to be comfortable in their self. So we will have healthier youth, healthier relationships between parents and children, and hopefully between children and community members. I think that we have the beginning of new visions, new paradigms, new possibilities for a new world that could be more beneficial for everybody.
Marsha, I want to thank you so much. I respect you so as a dear friend, a valued and trusted collaborator in the field of new educational paradigms. So thank you very much, Marsha.
Thank you.